I'm going to show you a couple of exercises that should be useful for practicing your hammer-on technique. I've done a video on hammer-ons before on the channel previously, some time ago, but it's something that's come up recently in my teaching with a piece that I've been introducing a couple of students to, and it seems that it's one of those things, if you know how to do it, you know how to do it. If you don't know how to do it, then it seems very challenging. As with everything, it's practice and getting your technique right. So I'll share with you a couple of quick exercises that will help you to be able to develop your technique on hammer-ons. So for the first exercise, what I'm going to do, I'm going to start my index finger. I'm going to put it down here. In my case, it's going to be on the 3rd fret of the guitar. So I'm going to play that note on the 3rd fret of the guitar, little G. This is on my high E string, by the way. Practice it on any string, but this is where I've chosen to start with. So that's where I'm starting out from. So in order to perform these hammer-ons, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use my 2nd finger to play the next fret up, which is going to be my 4th fret, but I'm not going to pick that. So I'm going to pick my first note, that one, and then the next one, I'm just going to bring my finger down onto the fret. Hopefully you can hear the difference. If I was to play both the notes, I get that very sharp sounding attack from my plectrum. You should be able to hear that on my first note I get that sharp attack from my plectrum, but on the 2nd note it sounds a lot smoother when I just bring my finger down onto it. So getting the feel of this is a little bit of something that you're just going to have to experiment with. You need to be able to bring your finger down hard and fast enough for the note to sound cleanly, but you don't want to be trying to smash your finger through the guitar when you're doing it. Have a go at it. Probably when you're starting out, I would maybe suggest going a little bit harder and more aggressive to make the note cleanly, and then as you get used to doing it, you'll be able to find that point where you know it's just enough pressure and just enough finger attack to be able to make it sound right. That's I can't show that on video, it's something you just have to get the feel for. So with those 2 notes in mind, just next to each other on those frets, get that so you're comfortable with it first, and then we're going to move up a gear, and rather than playing the next fret, we're going to play with our next finger, our 3rd finger, we're going to play the 5th fret. So I'm now skipping a fret and I'm going to play the same exercise using my 1st finger and my 3rd finger. So now I've got practice using 2 of my other fingers to be able to produce these hammer-ons on the guitar. Just like the first section, I was just playing the first note, and the 2nd note I was creating by bringing my finger down onto the string. And you can probably see where this is going. The next step up from there is we're going to play our little finger, and we're going to play that on the 8th fret. So in my case, I'm starting on my 3rd fret, and now my little finger is going to be hammering on up at my 8th fret here. Same method, same technique, but this is one that you might find challenging if you're just starting out, because most players find the little finger quite weak, and it does need strengthening and developing in practice. So that's the 4 fingers individually. What we can do is, once we're quite happy with that, we can try and build that up into a little bit of an exercise where we're moving between the different fingers. So I'll perhaps do, I don't know, let's say 4 on each fret. So I'm going to do my 3rd fret to my 4th fret. I'll do that 4 times, and then move up to my 5th fret using my third finger, 4 times, and the 6th fret using my little finger, 4 times, and then maybe move back down. And then I've got a full exercise out of it. And you can practice it on any strings. I'm playing it in one position there because I'm trying to keep my hand on camera shot, but I suggest playing it up and down the neck so that you're comfortable performing these hammer-ons everywhere. So that was the first one. Have a go at it. Make sure that you're okay with that. Practice it. Keep your notes nice and clean. Get your technique right. Use your metronome if you want to make sure that your timing's good when you're practicing that. If you're not so confident about your timing, and just make sure we get that right. That was easy with one of the two because we were always using our index finger to perform all the hammer-ons. That's usually your strongest finger, so that's why it makes that the easier exercise. I'm going to move on now and introduce another exercise where we're going to be hammering on between different fingers in our fretting hand, so we're not just relying mainly on our index finger plus another finger. We're going to work the entire hand. If you're beginning, if you're starting out, you'll probably find this a little bit more challenging because it's the dexterity aspect of using your fingers, but that's the great thing about exercises. Things like this probably make a decent warm-up exercise as well once you've got it down and once you're confident be able to do it. So I'll show you that one now. Now for the second exercise, we'll take it a little step further. If you recall from the first one, I was using my index finger for the starting note every time. So I'm going to switch it up, and rather than relying on that finger, I'm going to do it between different finger pairs. Don't worry if that sounds complicating, I'll show you what I mean. So my first drill is going to be using my first and my second fingers, just like before. Then the next stage, rather than doing that, first and third fingers, what I'm going to do is use my second and third fingers. And then, finally, I'm going to use my third and fourth fingers. By doing this, it makes sure that I'm building the strength and the technique in all of my fingers and not just focused on my index finger, which is my strong, my easy finger. That's your go-to finger. But with exercises, we're not trying to make it easy for ourselves. We're trying to make it challenging so that we can develop our techniques. So to put that together into an exercise, just like before, we'll do, let's say, 4 of each one before we move along. So we'll do first and second fingers to begin. Switch to second and third. To third and fourth. And we can go back down. And now we're working out all the 4 fingers a little bit more evenly rather than just being biased on that first index finger, which is the strong one that we tend to gravitate towards as guitar players. That's just a couple of basic exercises to get you going and get your technique built up. I was doing it I was trying to keep in one position for the sake of the camera whilst I was filming the exercises, but feel free to play them anywhere on the neck. It's a good idea to practice them in different positions on the neck because, as we know, your frets spacing is different. They're quite wider apart down here and they're quite narrower up here. So it just gets your hand generally more used to playing guitar in different areas and getting yourself more accustomed to and acclimatised to your instrument. So rather than just stick in one position like I did for the sake of the camera, practice those up and down the neck wherever you feel comfortable, and on the different strings as well, because the chances are this is just an exercise, but when you come to play these and use them in the context of a song or playing a proper piece of music, you're not just going to be stuck in one position on one string. You might have to do them in different positions, so it's great to practice them everywhere. As ever, I can't reinforce it enough, don't try and be too quick straight away. It doesn't matter how fast you play them, get your technique right. You want to be making sure that your hammered note sounds nice and clearly and isn't fluffed. The first note, the fretted note that you pick, is quite simple. We're all used to that, but make sure that your hammered on note is nice and clean and sounds great as well on all the exercises. And you can always build your speed up later, and that's the benefit to using a metronome for practice. Always a good idea. Enjoy.